So my name is Kadi, and I work for the publishing team here at Mindvalley. And I'm very excited for our today's speaker, who will be sharing some great ideas on how to work smart. So before I invite Bill on the stage, a short background. So Bill has been named as today's foremost expert in work complexity, helping people to do less and accomplish more. And he's also an internationally well-known best-selling author who has extremely valuable content and a passion for working smarter and not harder. Also, Bill has a dream of bicycling around the world via breweries. So I would like to welcome on the stage Bill Jensen. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank all of you for being here. Tonight, we are in the amazing Hall of Awesomeness. Tonight, we're going to break beyond the walls of awesomeness here and take that out into the world. Because tonight, I'm going to ask each and every one of you to help design the future of work, to bring your awesomeness out into the future of work. Yes, that relates to your role in what you do right now in your job, with your family. Yes, it relates to your teammates. Yes, it relates to your organization. Yes, it relates to your customers. But I'm going to ask you to go beyond that. I'm going to ask you to think about not what are you contributing to the world so much. You're already well figuring that out. But I'm going to ask you to think about what can you do to change the future of work, not just here, not just in your organization, but around the world. I'm going to ask that of you tonight. That's hard. I'm going to ask you to think about things that are way bigger than you, but I know you're up to the task. What I'll be doing is I'll be presenting 3 major findings from a breakthrough study on the future of work. I'll present the first 2, and then I'll stop. And I'll say, okay, what does that mean to you? What do you think about that? How can you change some of the results that I found? Then I'll do that again with the 3rd finding, and I'll stop again and say, what do you think? Twice tonight, I'm going to ask you to turn to your partners or your friends in the room and say, how can you reinvent and reimagine the future of work? Why I said this is a breakthrough study: for the last year, about 20 of my teammates and I interviewed over 7,000 people all around the world. And we didn't ask, what's the next big thing? Who can we copy? We didn't ask about the Mindvalleys of the world or who's an amazing company. We asked, what are your dreams? What are your dreams for the future of work? And then we asked, what tough choices do leaders need to make? Do all of us need to make to deliver that future? Then we did a gap analysis. We figured out what we need to do to deliver that future. And that's what we're going to focus on. What's the overall finding? The future is amazing. It is wonderful. It is fantastic, as long as we stop shooting ourselves in the foot. We're screwing up so much because of fear, hesitation, because we have to deliver performance all the time. So I'm going to walk you through these findings. I'm going to ask you, what could you do and I'm going to push beyond your normal boundaries. The findings are way beyond your normal routine. But what could you do to change the world, to change the future of work? Here's our first finding. We found that most leaders, maybe not here in Mindvalley, maybe not in some of your organizations, but most leaders around the world are actually holding back the future. They're keeping us locked in the past. Because when we talk to people, we interviewed, what are your dreams? And what do you need, what do leaders need to do to change, to match your dreams? 86% of the people we interviewed said we need to free people to be their best. We need to do more to free people up. And basically what we found was our leaders all around the world, this is 7,000 people in 35 countries all around the world, our leaders are great. They're super fast at driving efficiency and cost down through all the organizations. But they're unbelievably slow at changing people management systems. And what do I mean by people management system? Why are we held into the past? Basically, too many companies are still stuck with the 20th century hierarchy, as opposed to a hierarchy, which is organizing groups around their interests. You know this from Wikipedia, or how crowdsourcing or how crowdfunding is done, or Linux. That's a hierarchy where there is no centralized command and control. But the problem is most people out there who work today are still stuck with the 20th century hierarchy. But I want you to know this is not just a people issue. The way most of us talk about this is respect our people more, be more generous, more giving to our people. What I discovered in the research is it's a capacity issue. Most leaders out there are okay with reduced human capacity, you doing less than you could, simply because changing from a hierarchical model carries some risks for them. They might lose some control. Many of our leaders are okay with losses in capacity because it still gives them the reassurance of perceived control. And what we discovered is our workforce finds that unacceptable because you're draining from what I could be doing, what I could be accomplishing. You're overloading my day. What we found is there's unlimited human capacity for greatness, for awesomeness out there. But our leaders most of our leaders are not willing to unleash that because it means shifting out of that 20th century hierarchy. What does it take to change to where we need to go? It's not rocket science, it's not new technologies, it's not new economies. It's very simple. It takes courage, and it takes trusting your people. Courage and trust. That's really what we're talking about. And what we found is an amazing amount of urgency to address this. Because what's happening is we've hit the threshold of human capacity under the current hierarchical situation. We are globally facing a global talent shortage. And it's not because we don't have amazing talent like all of you. It's because we don't have the talent to keep up within a hierarchy. We need to do more to unleash that talent. So the first finding we found is that our leaders need to change the design of work. We need to change more towards the Mindvalley model, more towards other models. I'll give you some other examples of things. Many of you know how Mindvalley has changed a lot of what I'm talking about. There are other organizations. I interviewed somebody from Accenture Consulting, a global consulting outfit. They wanted to do more to help third world countries, but they couldn't afford to do lots of pro bono efforts. So what they did is they reinvented leadership development. They got a whole bunch of leaders to develop themselves by taking a voluntary cut in pay that would pay for them to go do work in third world countries. Another organization I interviewed was Menlo Innovations, another tech firm. What did they do? They invented the buddy system. Everybody has a shared job. Some of you may be familiar with Zappos. They're reinventing the hierarchy. They're reinventing the hiring system. You can no longer get a job at Zappos through a job listing. Basically, in order to apply for a job there, you have to go through their internal social network. And basically, HR or the hiring managers look at how you interact with current Zappos teammates. And they evaluate your interaction as part of the hiring process. There are many, many great examples, but not enough. We need more people to take this message globally. And in a few minutes, I'm going to ask, even if you're not running your own company, even if you're working for somebody else, what can you do to change this? So this is the first finding. The second is engagement is dangerous. Now, most of you might think I'm crazy. Engagement is what we all want in most companies. But it's tied together with the type above that, which says we've been asking the wrong questions. Engagement, as most companies define it, is all around getting you to do more for the company versus truly engaging you and your heart and your mind. So what we found is engagement, the way it is practiced around the globe, is actually dangerous. And what we found is the future of workforce is flopping the lens. It's no longer, how do you motivate me to do more for the company? It's more around the future of workforce sees the company as a vehicle for me to achieve my goals and my dreams. What are you doing, company owner, senior leadership, to help me achieve my dreams? And this is a big shift from the way most of the consultants and most of the senior execs define engagement. It's how can, most of them define it as, how can we get you engaged to help the company? This whole thing is being flopped around. The future of work is around, how can we help you and you and you achieve your dreams? We're surrounded by that concept here at Mindvalley, but that's a foreign concept to most people in the workplace. The future of workforce is flopping that lens. How did we learn this? We asked different kinds of questions. We focused on them and their dreams, the workforce. We asked them if they were happy as a person. 70% said, yeah, I'm pretty happy. We asked them, do they believe they can accomplish their dreams? roughly the same percentage, 69%, said, yeah, I can accomplish my dreams. 72% were hopeful about their future. But then when we asked them, where you work currently, can you achieve your dreams where you work currently? Globally, only 29% said yes, and that number is actually worse than that. That includes a lot of senior execs and entrepreneurs and people who work in entrepreneurial companies. That's about 2/3 of that 29%, senior execs and entrepreneurs. You take that away, there's less than 10% of the workforce thinks that they can achieve their dreams where they currently work. The elephant in the room that most companies don't acknowledge is that all of you have had amazing experiences outside of work. All of you are holding tablets or phones that have amazing UX interfaces. They're all designed around you. You get to design your tablet or your phone the way you want it. But most companies don't operate that way. What has been happening in the last few years, this is only current in the last half a dozen years or less. Every single person in this room and most everybody who works is now a consumer who has experienced this very personalized, very tailored experience to me. So the way we've got to start evaluating great places to work is no longer by comparing company A to company B. The way to evaluate a great place to work is how does it compare to the way I want to live my life? That's why I said it comes down to the questions we need to ask. If we're going to be focused on engagement, sample questions might be, is the corporate infrastructure, all the IT tools that you make me use, are all the corporate built tools as good as anything that I could buy from my phone or build? That's the way we need to evaluate corporate IT. Is it as good as anything I could buy or build from myself? The way we need to evaluate corporate cultures is the commitments you ask me to make for the company and the sacrifices you ask me to make for the company. Are they based on my beliefs and what's important to me and my personal passions and my priorities? Or are you asking me to do things that don't really matter to me? Another one, as was mentioned earlier, I help people work smarter. Another one that I've studied for about 20 years, a question I ask a lot of people in a lot of organizations: is this company respectful of your time and attention? Do they treat your time and attention as a valuable asset to be invested? Or do the things, the bureaucracy that they make you jump through, is it a waste of your time? And are they looking at how they use your time? These are the kind of questions that we need to start asking. So what we discovered when I said engagement is actually dangerous, it actually needs to shift from mostly being about the company and how do we get you engaged in that, to being a 50-50 model. How are we, 50% of it at least, has to be, how are we helping you achieve your dreams, your life goals? Yes, 50% of it has to be about the company and how do we make money, how do we satisfy customers, but 50% of it has to be about your goals. And that's the new model for engagement. And what we called it was Galilean truths, based on Galileo, who figured out that the sun did not revolve around the earth. It is no longer a truth that the employees revolve around the company. The company needs to begin revolving around the employees. So these are the findings that we discovered. Now comes the tough part. It's one thing for me to report a study to you. What I'm going to do is we're not divided in half numbers, but the room is divided in half. I'm going to ask all of you to turn to your neighbors in a minute and to debate this question. Even if you don't run the company, even if you work for somebody else, what can you do during the next year to change and impact what I just presented to you? So this half of the room, what I'd like you to do is think about what can you do beyond your own team, beyond your own company. Think about Malaysia, think about KL, think about the world. What can you do to impact helping the world change from a hierarchical model to a more networked model, to a hierarchy? What can you choose? What can you choose to do in the next year to help leaders have more courage to free up people? So this half of the room, what can you do to help leaders have more trust in their teammates? What can you do? This half of the room, I'd like you to think about this question. What can you do during the next year to start having companies face Galilean truths, that the employees do no longer revolve around the company, that the company, at least 50% of it, has to revolve around employee dreams and goals? What can you do beyond your company, beyond your job? Can you have an impact? Can you start a debate? Can you start a global conversation? What can you do to help more people achieve their goals and their dreams at work? So those are the two questions. There's one, this side of the room, what can you do to help move everybody from a hierarchy to more networked organizations? What can you do to build courage? What can you do to build more trust from leaders? This side of the room, what can you do to start speaking more Galilean truths, that the company has to start revolving around employee needs and where you get more people dreaming? Take a few minutes, turn to your neighbor and say, what can you do? I'm going to outlaw the word they or the concept of they. Yes, this is easy to say somebody else has to change. But what can you do? Let's talk about that for a few minutes. I'll call you back. Sure, I'll bring it back to you. Are you my mic person? We're going to start over here, but I have to confess, what I'm asking of you is actually very difficult. It's very easy to say, well, these are our leaders' problems. We just need another leader like Mindvalley's leader, or we just need different leadership. It's very easy to say it's somebody else's problem. What I'm asking you to do is very hard. I'm asking you to help change a system that you're not in control of. So let's begin over here. I asked all of you to think about what could you do to change a hierarchy to a hierarchy, to create more courage in our leaders and more trust in organizations. What did you guys come up with? Oh, I was asked to, whoever wants to speak, could you come on up here to make it easier for filming?
Hi, evening. My name is Kenneth. So the question is, what can I do? So if I'm the employee and where I used to work, one of the ways is that every year we would have a evaluation period where we would sit down, where I would sit down with my boss, and then I would say that, okay, these are the KPIs, I've met my KPIs, and I deserve a pay raise or whatever it is. So it's during that moment that I can ask, that say, hey, boss, these are the things that I also want to achieve while I'm here in the company. And just list them out from there. Having the courage to voice it out and the trust to say that, and the trust on my boss that it will be taken in a good way. Not in the sense that if I tell out my dreams, I would leave the company or I would go and do something else on my own. But it's more towards like having the courage and appreciating that moment at that point. Because at that moment, I may flourish or I may be good at another different department. And at the end of the day, it still contributes to the company itself. And I can still achieve my dreams. So that's one of the ways that I think that I can contribute and change from a hierarchy to a hierarchy.
And using that moment, the KPI discussion is really a contracting moment between you and the company. So what you're saying, Kenneth, is bringing more of what your needs are into that contracting moment.
Yes, because it's also during that time I would put it in a way where if I am doing something that I'm passionate about, if I'm doing something that I'm happy, absolutely happy doing, I would be more productive. I would work better. I would feel better. I would be able to think of better ideas. Wouldn't you want that, and it would be a better ROI for what you invest in me in terms of the salary? I'll ask the boss. I'll ask my boss himself. Yeah, and in a way, of course, tie it to the benefit of the company. So it becomes a win-win platform situation. And I kind of know that every year there will be that opportunity. And even if there is no opportunity, trust and courage, I need to have it on myself to set a time and meet my boss in the room, in the privacy of his room, and voice it out and say it out. Because at the end of the day, if it all fails, I then need to have the trust in my own abilities and capabilities and courage to ask myself the question, everything else has failed. Do I still want to be with this company?
Terrific. Thank you, Kenneth. Who else? Thank you. Who else wants to come up in the group? Don't be shy. Come on.
Hello, good evening. I'm Joshua. Just like to add on to Kenneth's idea. Kenneth, right? Yeah, just like to add on to his idea. Yes, his idea is about bottom up. What we also discussed earlier was the trust in communication. Communication is really the bridge to everything, and communication don't just go from bottom up. We need to find a way to come from top bottom as well and see where we can meet in the middle. So one of the ideas that we have discussed earlier was also to put these leaders, force them to sit together and to discuss this thing. Maybe it's like, what was that organization again? Yeah, Ethos & Co. Ethos & Co, which is an organization that help facilitate the ministries in Malaysia, right? To kind of put them together in a room, kind of like lock them up, and then let them to discuss some serious matters. So maybe we can facilitate this type of function and allow the leaders to see the importance in this hierarchy and the importance of having the courage to trust their people. Just a thought. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Others? Okay.
So my name's Sam, and I have a small idea what you can do as an employee to allow the leader to gain more trust in you. And it's just something I came up with as he asked me this. It's you can go up to the leader or your manager, whoever it is, and you can propose something. You can propose them to allow you to have more freedom, whatever that looks like to you in your role. And the hard part is conveying the message to them so they will trust you. So if they say yes, we will give you this freedom, we will give you more trust in you, it is then your responsibility to show them that trust, to deliver the results. So I think it's about maybe stepping up your game a little bit. I don't know, that's my thought.
That's great, thank you. What's interesting about this, and I see this around the world, is my question was how do we help leaders change? And the responses that came back were very Gandhi-like. It's be the change you want to see. If we're asking our leaders to have more courage, we have to show more courage. If we're asking our leaders to trust more, we have to trust more. If we want to see less hierarchy, we need to make proposals like even a KPI, a key performance indicator. That's a very hierarchical concept. We need to put in our proposals of how that would match our needs. So for the first set, it's be the change you want to see. Let's come over here to the second set. Do we have a mic runner? Can we have a few volunteers to come up? I asked this group over here, how do we spread more Galilean truths that we do not necessarily revolve around the organization's need, that the organization needs to revolve around ours, as well as how can we help more people achieve their dreams at work? Can we have a few people come up? You're a very talkative group. You don't get away with talking out there without bringing the mic back up. Who can we bring up? Come on up.
Hi, good evening. I'm Khalil. I'm a developer and an entrepreneur. My opinion on the 50-50 Galilean truth is simple. Because I'm an entrepreneur, what I want to enforce or suggest to companies is to change their business model to commission based. So for example, because when we say people's to achieve their dreams, most of their dreams is either to have the bigger house, bigger car, more money, go holidays, buy the latest gadget. So it all revolves around money, right? So if the company can assist the employee to get more rewards or incentive by doing their job, it will eventually help them to achieve their dreams, right? So in a sense, traditionally, commission-based companies are for the sales teams, right? So instead of just focusing on the sales teams, why not empower the entire organization to help sell the company products and give them commission? So this is prevalent in the internet industry through affiliate systems. So why not bring it to the normal organization as well? Thank you.
Great idea. Thank you. Who else can come up, share something? Yes.
Hi there. My name is Alan. We were in discussion with Hadi just now. So just to add on what he mentioned. So our conclusion was that education is power. So basically, being part of companies requires that kind of empowerment to be educated to create. So Hadi himself is a developer. So what he shared with me was the fact that To create, you require certain kind of tools. Example, HTML, Ruby on Rails, Python, things like that. Those are the kinds of requirements and tools so that your employee in the future, when they want to achieve their dreams, they are equipped with the tools to achieve it, to get them from point A to point B. So being part of a company that incentivizes them to achieve their dreams, our conclusion was that we need to provide the necessity of tools, the necessary education so that they can achieve more, they can do more. And on top of all that, providing those commissions in place. Thank you.
Great idea. Thank you. Have someone else come up? Okay, and then you'll be next.
Okay. Basically, I think what we should do is actually start small. I'm a software developer. Basically, what we have is like every week, one day, like start our own stupid ideas, whatever, like fart apps or whatever. Give some stupid ideas, start doing it. Maybe first time it will fail. The second time we can create an app in one day. Maybe the third time is like 3 apps in one day. It's slowly getting better and better. So the employee also, their confidence is getting higher because what they do is like better and better beside the job scope. So they are more likely to have courage to give ideas and how to change. And the top level and the lower level also will have more interaction between together. So I think that's a good way to.
Great, thank you. And next was down here.
So there was, like you guys were talking about money, and that's what we were discussing as well in our group. And basically guys were saying that it's, the whole discussion started from that you need to voice out your desires and your dreams. And guys started saying that it's actually difficult because in the end of the day you work for money. And I said, but what if not? What if you don't actually work for money? I mean, you do, but that's what they kind of make you to think, that they like to have you hooked, right? But if you stop thinking that you're working for money, but you're working for something more, to achieve something more, and money will come in the end of the day if you achieve your goals and also help your company to achieve the goals. And when you start having this type of conversation with your business owner that you're working for, then this shift happens, well, I believe.
It's great, thank you. Any others want to come up on this side? Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ping. Can I just sit down? Let's make it fun, all right? Now, the thing is, we are the people, right? Now, the people are the problem. We have the dreams. We have the dreams. Most of our dreams are money-driven. Some of our dreams might not be money-driven. I'm not sure. Okay. So hence that we had that conversation about something more than the money. And for example, my dream is big. I dream big. Do big or go home. Right. It's a very common saying, and I don't think there is any company that has the ability to fulfill my dreams. Maybe I'm not sure. Or if the company A can fulfill my dream, it might not be able to fulfill your dreams. Why not? The employee can actually work with a few companies. Would that be something like, in a way, I can fulfill some part of my dream from company A, then some part of my dream from company B, and so on, then 100% of my dream become true. Would that be a solution for that? Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? One more. Yes, come on down. Yay!
Hello, my name Naim. let me put things into perspective. I'm looking from education perspective of applying Galilean model of 50-50. That means we can go back home and we have kids. Perhaps we have neighbors, and perhaps we have students around us. What we can propose is that for them to be able to balance between academic achievement and also focusing on more of the future of work that is non-hierarchical. The issue of hierarchical work is actually originate from our education system. Okay, we have to excel in exam, we have to sit in row in school, and we have all the act and regulation that suppress our imagination. Having said that, we must start somewhere, and everyone must be able to play everyone's roles in promoting it in a small way, perhaps for your kids, for your brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, one more.
Hi, my name's Piel, and I come from a background of a bank, central bank actually. So I feel that in the bank, a lot of us are preconditioned in a way to think that we cannot want more than our job because we're not allowed to do anything apart from the job. And so basically, a lot of the employees, even if we had goals and dreams that we want to achieve, a lot of that has been suppressed, or we limit ourselves. We think that that's not possible. Let's just follow this route of staying safe, earning that salary, having our health insurance, getting a pension. So that's a normal route. And so to think anything outside the box would be something that would be very difficult to do. And in that journey and in that process, we expect others to follow suit. And so there's this culture in the bank where if someone tries to act like differently from what the norm is, then they would actually look to them like they're not supposed to be doing that. You're not supposed to be wearing red. You're not supposed to be wearing short skirts because that's not how it works. And so if you wanted to revolutionize the workplace, both sides have to change in terms of the high level and the lower level as well. So the change has to come from the bottom, but if they don't feel that they're deserving of having this 50-50 rule, then really there's no changes will happen, right? So what I thought of proposing was to have like the company perhaps have like an awesomeness festival for like a day or something, and to get employees and employers to come out and just have an open debate about what really do they want, and not feel like, oh, he's senior, so I don't have this confidence to speak out my mind, or the courage or the trust to be able to speak out openly. So all that has to go, and there has to be a condition or environment or day that everyone can just feel relaxed, and it's not forced upon anyone to come, but you can come if you have thoughts that you want to share with, and to open up the mind from both top and bottom. Does that make sense?
Sounds great. Thank you. I'm going to move on from there, but great comments. Thank you, all of you. And what I want to share with you is although we're in a crisis, and we do need to make this change, there is no right or wrong answer here. It's your answer that matters. But we have to move beyond the conversation that is handed to us right now, where we're being told this is the way I'm asking all of you to take part in changing the global conversation about how we build the future of work. It's still too much based on the past. And in order to change the global conversation, the one way that I know that works for most people I know as well as myself, and maybe for you, is you've got to draw on your personal passion. As was introduced earlier, you know, I help people work smarter. I'll tell you where my passion comes from and why I travel the world trying to affect change. It all happened 20 years ago this summer when my mom passed away. She was rushed into a hospital, and we were all there around her in the emergency room, and we were told she wasn't going to make it through the night. My grandmother was there. It was her daughter. You can imagine this is the worst thing, your child going before you go. And we were all told not going to make it through the night. We were told to go to the ICU, the intensive care unit, the family waiting room, up on the 4th floor, and that mom would soon be brought up. And we waited for 5 minutes, no mom. 10 minutes, no mom. 20 minutes, no mom. I'm waiting for my father to do something, but he's not a take charge kind of guy. Finally, at 40 minutes, I was a terrible human being. I was pissed, I kicked, I screamed, I cursed, but I got attention. And the doctors and the nurses all came over and they were very apologetic, but they said, you know, Mom's been dying down there alone in the emergency room. Nobody's been with her. She's alone in the corner of an emergency room dying with no one with her. And they apologized sincerely and they brought her up. And a few hours later, she did pass away. But what I realized, everything I do for the last 20 years has been driven by that moment, because I learned how precious time was. That I had 40 of the last minutes with my mom stolen from me, and I'm never, ever going to get those minutes back. And it was all because of a miscommunication between the emergency room and the intensive care unit. So what I'm passionate about and what I focus on is helping people change how they communicate. So I focus on clarity, brevity, putting value in communication, but it's not really about writing an email or running a meeting. It's around giving people back time in their life. The more and better that I can get to a point, the more I'm giving you back time. So that's my passion. That's mine. What's yours? What I'm going to ask you to do, if you're going to have an impact on this, you need to change not just the conversation with your boss at the bank or KPIs or other things. We all need to take part. We all have a responsibility in changing the global conversation. And if you want to see these changes happen for yourself as well as others, you need to change the global conversation, which leads directly into the last finding. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through this just for a couple minutes. It's very simple. And then, because it's just one thing, I'm going to ask all of you in the room to talk about the same thing. The third finding that we found in the future of work is that it's very personal. Yes, it's about the passions that I just talked about. It's about being joyful. It's about happiness. But it's around more than that. Everything that I heard from all the interviewees, it was be passionate, be true to yourself. But there was something more. And what I discovered as I dug deeper and deeper, there were 3 basic trends that everybody said if they want to see the future of work, every single person said we need less fear, more courage. You need to be true to your authentic self, always. And that you need to know thyself, know yourself very well. The people I interviewed around the world for this study always had a great story about themselves. We have superheroes surrounding us here. One guy I interviewed in New York, a tech entrepreneur, he says, you know what allows me to be so creative? It's 1st grade Batman. I love Batman so much because he had no superpowers. It was all technology and using his brains to figure things out. So he had his mother make himself a Batman costume that he wore to school in first grade every day for 6 months. And he kept wearing it, and the teachers and the principal complained so much. They brought his mom in, and they had a parent-teacher conference, and they said, you've got to stop making you get this kid to stop wearing this costume. He's being disruptive. And his mom said, no. First, he'll grow out of this within a few days or a month or whenever, but he'll grow out of it. And second, this is how he wants to express himself. And he is an entrepreneur right now and puts his ass on the line and comes out with amazing ideas because he fights for creativity because his mom fought for him. Knowing himself deeply. Another woman I interviewed said what came from her, what she draws upon all the time, is in junior high, she protected one of her friends from a bully. And she realized what she was about standing up for others who can't stand up for themselves. And her job right now, she's the head of leadership development for Greenpeace. And Greenpeace's mission is to stand up for the earth when no one else is. So I need you to think about what's inside you. What's your story that you draw upon? And when I asked these leaders to go deeper than these three things, it always came down to just one thing. The future of work is every single one of ours ability to be willing to embrace personal vulnerability. I'll give you a few examples from my life. When I began this career that I've written now 8 books, I'm working on more, the research that I've done, over 1 million people around the globe, when I first started this research, I'd invested a couple $100,000 of my company's money, but it's my company, so it's my money, a couple $100,000 of my money, and I went to a TED conference. And one of the speakers, this is like 20 years ago, was John Perry Barlow. John Perry Barlow is now into internet freedom, freedom of democracy on digital areas. But how he first made his living was as lyricist for the Grateful Dead. And John Perry Barlow talked 20 years ago about what we're experiencing now. He said the future of commerce would be giving old knowledge away for free and charging for new knowledge. That was actually the Grateful Dead's model. They were one of the only bands that traveled the world and didn't care about pirated tapes. Everybody else was, don't pirate, no audio, no video. And they let everybody tape because they were giving away the old concerts to create deadheads, their followings, for the new conferences. And that's now a lot of the way the new economy is. We give a lot of stuff away for free. Well, I came back 20 years ago from that conference, and I had invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in my first wave of research, and I put it all on the web for free. And a book agent came along and said, hey, you should write a book about that. And that became my first bestseller, Simplicity. And I became known as Mr. Simplicity from that. But I was willing to be vulnerable to put myself out there. This latest book and this future of work, I usually write all these things by myself. I crowdsourced this with a team of 20 people. And I wasn't in control of all the interviews. I put the scripts together, but I had no idea what was going to come back. It's 100 times better than anything I could have done by myself. I had to trust the people around me and be vulnerable and be willing to share my vision with people that I had to trust them to let it happen. And it's much, much better than anything I could have ever done. Putting yourself out there for personal vulnerability is the next question I'd like you to think about. What can you do during the next year where you embrace more personal vulnerability? If you want to create the future of work, what will you do during the next year to be more vulnerable? Talk to the people around you and we'll bring you back in a few minutes.
You know the drill. I'm about to ask anybody who wants to come up. But this one's a little tougher because I'm asking around personal vulnerability. It's whatever you're willing or able to share in front of others. It can be deeply personal, but it doesn't have to be. But this one's hard. This is actually what's holding back all of those leaders that we talked about earlier. It's hard to put yourself out there and be willing to be vulnerable and to trust others. The biggest thing that we found in our research was fear. And not like fear I'm going to die, it's fear of embarrassment, fear of
losing face, fear of being perceived differently. Not caveman fear like, the dinosaur is going to come get me, but or you're not city fear like I'm going to get run over by a car. It's just, I don't want to look bad. So I asked all of you, what could you do to embrace more personal vulnerability in the next year? Who is willing and would like to share? Yes.
Hi, my name is Sergio. I'm from Indonesia. So it's not something that I will do in 2015. It's the thing that I currently do. So a couple of months ago, I quit my job and then I went back to Indonesia and start a movement where I actually teach high school children how to code. But not only that, because I received some freelancing project for the exceptional kids, I let them do my job. So I just give most of the job that I received to them, and then I just review whether it up to the standards. And so I teach them how to code, but it also give them trust to actually run the whole project and reward them by giving the money that they're worth it. Okay, thanks.
That's great. Thank you. Who else would like to share? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Kenneth. So one of the things I was brainstorming with my group over there, and one of the things to embrace more personal vulnerability is to be honest with yourself. It starts with honesty. And honesty starts with a very, very simple question, and we get asked about it. And we ask that question many times in a day. How are you today? And we ask that and we get asked that same question. At most times, what I observe is that we will say that, I'm doing fine, I'm doing okay, not too bad. If it's struggling, then they'll say surviving. But if we are really honest with ourselves and we're having a bad day, just say it out. I'm having a bad day, it can be better. What about you? And just saying it as it is. Starts with being honest. Because if we don't be honest with a simple question, how can we then tackle other bigger questions? How can we then ask the company itself or ask other people to change when we can't even deal with a simple question, how are you today? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Yeah? So it's a very, very simple question. Just be honest with ourselves. Because if we don't address that, guess where is all that pent-up emotion going to go when we go home to our loved ones? And most times, it tends to be like that. It's just a personal observation. May be true, may not be true, I don't know. just something to ask ourselves, to be honest, when we ask ourselves. So what are you going to do when you ask? When people ask you, how are you today? Tell it as it is. Be vulnerable. And you set the tone and context and the mood, and you start from leadership from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to come up? Come on now.
Center stage, please.
Hi, I'm Wazy. I am a project manager at a mobile app company. I sense a bit of a similarity that we're talking about here is actually about the underlying tone is giving out the power. I'm a project manager. My personal vulnerability is actually I'm OCD. I'm OCD about timeline. I'm OCD about the project development, where we are at our milestones. And what I've been trying to do very much this year is actually giving back the power to my back-end tech guys. Marketing one, what marketing wants. Back-ends, they need to give us our recommendations on what platform we should go for. We can't keep using the old stuff, as we all know, but we have to take risk, which is also mentioned earlier. You need to, I've got to admit, I can't do coding. I can't do coding to save my own life, so I have to give the trust to my tech guys who really know what's ongoing. They request, I know it's something new, right? We all know it, but sometimes we try to over-dictate how the project goes. We try to micromanage. And I've been working very hard to try to give back the power to the guys who know what's going on, because they fight for education, they fight to go for conference, to learn about new platforms. And I try to get their voice up to the management to say, hey, we need more timeline for this. Why? Because we're going onto this platform. If we don't go onto this platform, we will no longer be relevant. Okay, so I try to put it together so that we have a stronger voice, so that we can work together as a team, and try not to scream to my back-end guys and by the way of saying like, hey, you owe me this 10 years ago. But more like, hey, how's your baby going? And they will actually let me know that, hey, this is my baby. I'm actually, like, last night I haven't been sleeping. I'm just trying to ask about the forums how to solve this problem because it's new. We are staying relevant, and they actually feel better about it. And yeah, I'm just trying not to keep asking them, have we fixed the bugs yet? Can we launch beta yet? So that's my personal vulnerability. Let me give you the mic.
I'm sorry. I want to know how different it is. I mean, because I have a colleague who I work with, and she's very much demanding, and she wants to know everything what is going on. So she asks for, I work with her, so she every time when I work with her, she asks for the updates and kind of thing. But she tried to delegate things, but yeah, it seems that it's difficult for her.
It happens. From my point of view, what has worked for me is actually it's your colleagues, part of her job to ask and stay relevant, to let you know that she have the eyes on it, she have an interest on this project. Please keep it running. I think it's a good part. We can take it pros and cons. What worked for me is, because I'm in the middle, I try to filter. I try to filter, and I try to, how would you say, I try to prioritize. And sometimes, okay, I will sweet code some things. I'll tell them, okay, this is in progress, but I try to manage their expectations, what's going on. Hopefully so that it's not so painful or it's not so earsore, because sometimes when you get your back-end guys to talk to your marketing, they try to kill each other. True story, right? True story. So yeah, that's my personal vulnerability.
Great, great, thank you. Anybody else want to share? Thank you very much for sharing. Oh, did you want to? Come on.
Moment of truth. I am 31, and I am a single mother with 2 boys. I'm going through a divorce process. I am a Muslim, and I fear to death of losing my child my children in a custody battle ongoing with my ex-husband. And so every action and everything that I want to do right now, there's a lot of fear. Fear of not acting appropriately, because as a Muslim, there's a lot of ways that we have to act in order to, not to certify, but to prove that we are of a certain, we have to act in a certain way that a Muslim has to act. And because of that, I fear doing a lot of things. So now this is me stepping into and embracing personal vulnerability. And with this, I hope that I can move forward and not fear anymore.
Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to share that. Thank you. It does revolve around fear. And you know what I've learned through this project is when I interview people around the future work and fear comes up, and I started thinking, well, the opposite of fear is courage. And I was corrected multiple times. The opposite of fear is not courage. It's love. And I was taught that over and over and over again by many of the people that I interviewed. I'll close this portion of the slide with one last story from one of the people I interviewed. He's from Nicaragua. And during the late 80s, there was a war down there, and he immigrated as a refugee from Nicaragua as a child to the United States. He was adopted by a foster family, went on to get a great education, got a PhD, went back to Nicaragua, and became a venture capitalist. And one of the things he told me about love is all of us have to find our inner Mandela. And what he was referring to was when Mandela, South Africa, was imprisoned, he came out of prison and he refused to do retribution against those who imprisoned him. And this guy in Nicaragua, he was telling me this story, why we all have to find our inner Mandela. He said, I'm now a venture capitalist. I'm investing in firms with the very people who imprisoned my family. And he's helping them grow their businesses. I don't know if I could do that. But that's the definition of love. And what I want to share with you when you're going to embrace your personal vulnerability, the opposite of that fear is love. Is loving enough people, enough ways, loving yourself to give of yourself and to keep giving. I'm not Muslim, but I've been divorced. I went through that fear stage. I fell in love after I got divorced. I was very vulnerable. It was with the wrong person. What I've learned is there's nothing wrong with love. The more you love, the better it'll be. Sometimes you do have to watch out for who you give that love to. You can be vulnerable in the wrong way. But I want to encourage you all to love yourselves and each other and the world more. That's the answer to personal vulnerability. Thank you. The research says it all comes down to the people. And what I'm asking all of you to do is understand the world as it is. The world is you, your vulnerabilities, your fear. The world is, we need to change the way things are. It's too hierarchical. We need to create more courage. We need to create more trust. That is the world as it is. And have the audacity and the moral courage, the audacity and the moral courage to build a world that could be and should be. So that is your role That's your role in the future of work. It's not just the Hall of Awesomeness. It's the Hall of Audacity. Be audacious enough to create a world that you want to see. Don't wait for other people to do it. In a few minutes, we're going to turn it over to you to network. But I want to thank all of you guys for being here. That's my email address. Anyone here that emails me will get a book that I wrote when I interviewed Vishen and the people at Mindvalley called Disrupt. I'll send you the ebook. When I interviewed 100 disruptive heroes, Vishen was one of them. Anybody that emails me from this thing, just tell me you'd like the ebook and I'll send it to you. There's an awful lot I learned by interviewing those people. And the courage begins with reaching out to others. I have met amazing people around the world just by saying, who should I talk to? Who do you know? And just reaching out beyond myself and being sincerely interested in everyone I was interviewing. I've met amazing, amazing people around the world. That's it for my time with you. In a moment, I'm going to turn it back. But I want to thank you for being here. And what I want to ask you to do is take the people from Mindvalley, or I can send you these slides. What I'm going to ask all of you for 2015 to think about is, what can you do to change the world? Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Bill, for being with us today and for the great talk. Really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for coming. And you can be on the lookout for an email from us with the slides and the information on the next events. So thank you, and have a great evening, everyone.